Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just broke down the Notre Dame A&M game, the primetime game on that Saturday. I am going to pick the Aggies. I don't feel great about that, but going to Kyle Field, I think that's going to be the big time difference maker for them. So I'll pick the Aggies for the time being, and we'll see where that stands on Monday morning. But let's get into LSU USC. This one's going to be so much fun. I think everyone's circling this one as the one you just got to be on the couch for, because it's not about, how much you care about these teams. It's not even about how much you hate these teams in some respects. It's about the amount of points that are going to be scored. This one is going to be absolutely up and down the field. Neither of these defenses look all that strong going into this year, and these offenses look really strong. So I'm so excited for this one. LSU favored by 4 points right now out in there in Las Vegas. USC, 63.5 is the over-under. USC coming into this game with a lot of energy. There's no doubt about that. I think they have this kind of chip on their shoulder mentality. A lot of people telling them, you can't just fix a defense over one offseason. I tend to agree with that statement, but they're trying to prove people wrong. They're trying to show that they've made big time strides and they're ready to kind of get into that Big Ten conversation right away. So this one's going to be incredible at Sunday at 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. Don't want anyone tuning in just a little bit too early, but I think this one's really, really hard to pick. Probably the hardest game of the weekend to pick, just because of how many people are going to have an impact on this game and how crazy it's going to get throughout it. But I'm going to start with all the players you got to watch, and not Torian York, obviously, but Ashton Stamps is the guy that I want to start with. He's the standout corner from fall camp for LSU, and they badly needed one. He played really, really good ball throughout fall camp, and it's hard to kind of get a beat on that. Obviously, fall camp is a little bit of a zero-sum game, but at the end of the day, I think this is going to be their top guy, and he better be ready to roll. Now, they're going to need more than one guy, because there are about 4 USC wide receivers that are going to be a problem, and we'll get to one here in a second, but as long as Ashton Stamps comes to play, at least you feel a little bit better about that back end. And then Adam Anderson is the guy I'm watching on the offensive side of the ball, because this wide receiver room for LSU, very, very talented. I don't see a clear wide receiver 2 in this room. I know Kyron Lacey is going to be the guy. I feel very confident in that. But I don't think CJ Daniels has come along the way that they wanted to. I don't know if Chris Hilton is the guy that really fits that role. I think Adam Anderson could be. I think he has tons of ability, has played really good ball throughout fall and spring camp, so I think he might just take that next big step, and maybe he's the guy that makes the big time play down the stretch of this game. For USC, Kamari Lassiter is the obvious choice for me. D'Anton Lane came in and he brought over Kamari Lassiter from UCLA, and this is going to be the general of the back end. He's going to be the quarterback of the back end, and he's got to be ready for a lot of stuff, because he's going to see so many passing concepts, so many weapons all over the field, and a quarterback that is really good in Garrett Nussmeier. But at the end of the day, there are going to be opportunities to make a big play in this game. At some point, a defensive play is going to be presented, and maybe it's Kamari Ramsey making that big-time play for USC. And then Jacoby Lane is just incredible. USC has about 4 guys in this room that are just going to be outright awesome this upcoming year, and I don't know if they have a wide receiver 1, but they might have 4 wide receiver 2s that very well could be wide receiver 1 on any given week. And then the other guy I would watch is a very talented sophomore player, Deuce Robinson. In fact, all of these guys I think are sophomores, so a lot of really impressive young talent, and it's going to be a handful for that LSU back end, I can promise you that. But getting into this one, there are so many different storylines heading into this one, but the biggest one for me is obviously the new faces on defense. D'Anton Lane comes over from UCLA to take over USC's defense, and it was downright bad a year ago and has been downright bad pretty much throughout the entirety of Lincoln Riley's head coaching career, so something they got to figure out. I think they hired a fantastic guy, so I think it's going to get there, but maybe it takes a little bit of time. And then Blake Baker on the other side, coming over from Missouri to take over the LSU job. Incredible, incredible coach. Again, personnel and all the other stuff might not be all the way there, but we'll see who can make the biggest impact on Sunday. And then you have 2 quarterbacks that are filling Heisman-sized shoes. There's no doubt about that. You have incredible, incredible players walking out the door at both of these universities, and Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier. I don't know why I can't say his name right now. Garrett Nussmeier taking over for two guys that are just incredible. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, the last two Heisman winners, the top two picks in the NFL draft. This is about as much pressure that these two quarterbacks could have, and about as big of shoes as they could possibly fill. And then the final one for me is, could this be a springboard moment? I think both of these teams are going into the season saying, if we can find ourselves on defense, if we can do this, that, and the other, we have a chance to make the CFP. If they win this game, I think a lot of that stuff becomes reality. I think a lot of that stuff kind of comes into place, and this USC team that you're going into the Big Ten, you feel a little bit more confident. Not that you're going to be able to, totally handle the physicality, but at least that you're going to be able to win against big-time teams. And then LSU on the other side, if they're able to win this one, you're going into a gauntlet of a schedule, but you already have a really good win, a feather in your cap, if you will. So it's going to be really, really awesome to watch this unfold. But at the end of the day, I think this one's going to be a battle, and whoever walks out of it will likely be a big-time topic of conversation on Monday around the playoff. But moving on, let's talk about how USC can win, establish the run against this very weak defensive line. The LSU defensive line has been the big-time story of the offseason, and it hasn't necessarily gotten all that better. I do like Jacoby and Guillory. I do like Jalen Lee. I do like JVR Suggs. I don't love them enough. There's no doubt about that. And Jonah Monheim being at the interior of that USC offensive line is going to give them plenty of push. They brought over Woody Marks from Mississippi State a year ago. Over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. Nothing crazy in 2023, but a very talented, very physical running back that in Lincoln Riley's offense could do some really special things. So I think this is the game plan. Try to pull the LSU defense in just a little bit, especially Harold Perkins. And let's talk about Harold Perkins here for a second. Find and neutralize number 7. Harold Perkins is the new number 7 over there at LSU, and that's a pretty cool thing for a defensive player to get. If you remember, Tyrann Mathieu, I believe, is the only other defensive player to get it. So just incredible stuff from this guy, and frankly, this could be a game that he just entirely blows up. I think there's going to be points. I think there's going to be plenty of points, frankly. But there could be that one play, whether he has a pick or he has a forced fumble or he makes a big tackle for loss. There is going to be one play that if Harold Perkins makes it, maybe it's the difference for LSU. So finding and neutralizing that guy to the best of your ability, you're not going to be able to stop him altogether, but doing that to the best of your ability is the number one thing you have to do. So it's going to be really interesting. And then on top of that, you don't know where he's going to be. We haven't seen any tape with Blake Baker calling plays for Harold Perkins, so I don't know where he's going to line up. I don't know what type of stunts he's going to run on pass rushes. I don't know if he's going to drop back into coverage a ton. It's going to be kind of a nightmare to figure out just where this guy is first, but then what is his assignment and how do we stop it is going to be really, really tough. And then Garrett Nussmeier, just put him in obvious passing situations. The biggest story coming out of fall camp for LSU was Garrett Nussmeier did not look all that great when it comes to turnovers. The only way you can really put him in that spot, the only way that you can kind of force him into those situations is put him in 3rd and 8s, put him in 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 15s, and at least enough times to make sure that back end knows what's coming. They know that it's a passing down. They know that if they cut down those tight windows, then they're going to have the ability to make that big play that is going to be super important in this game. So it's one of those things that Bear Alexander's got to hold up really aggressively against that run game if he can against this incredible O-line for LSU. But at the end of the day, if they can do this, then I feel pretty good that Garrett Nussmeier is going to make at least one mistake, and maybe that's the mistake that does it for USC. Moving right along, LSU, how can they win on Sunday? Get Garrett rolling quickly. You have to get this guy's feet under him very, very fast because he's taken the reins for the first time. He's come in and started at different points, but this was never his team. Now it is. It's been his team since Jaden Daniels walked out the door, and it will be his team through the rest of the season unless something crazy happens. So this is one of those moments where he's just got to get comfortable. You're going out to Vegas. You're playing a big-time game at prime time on Saturday. Just let him get into the game. Let him throw those drag routes. Let him throw, a couple of screens out to Chris Hilton and let him go. Let Kyron Lacey go up and get one. All of these things just to get his confidence boosted, see the ball be caught a couple of times, and then he's one of those guys like Connor Wegman that it's going to be really hard to stop if he gets rolling downhill. So that's definitely a huge thing for that offense. But then on the defensive side of the ball, the D-line just got to hold their own. It doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, I frankly think they're going to lose the battle. But just don't lose it by a ton. Just don't get dominated in the battle is the ultimate goal for this defense. Whether it's Jacoby and Guillory or Jalen Lee or some of the other players out there, they just got to make enough plays. This USC O-line is good. It's not necessarily fantastic, but it's definitely good enough. And I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble getting consistent push. If they can make those one couple of plays, if they can get that one tackle in the backfield to force a 3rd and 12, and then they got to pass the ball downfield, then maybe you get one of the other keys to this win is couple of the big defensive plays. Just a couple of plays where you make that big time one on the defensive side of the ball and things get really interesting in a hurry. Whether it's Ashton Stamps making an awesome play on a ball to get a pick, or Harold Perkins having a strip sack, or Javian Toviano hitting someone really, really hard to force to get a 4th down stop. Whatever that looks like, make those couple of plays. The margins in this game are going to be remarkably thin. All LSU or USC, for that matter, has to do is just make that one play. Whether it's Braden Swinson coming off the edge for LSU, or USC, it's Bear Alexander knocking down a pass on 3rd and 10. Whatever that looks like, just make that one big play and then let your offense go to work, because there's going to be plenty of points in this game. And this was a really, really tough one to pick. We know it's going to be a track meet. We know these teams are going to be flying up and down the field, and likely it comes down to one big defensive play. I'm terrified to make this pick, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the best player on the football field, and that's Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins and the Tigers, I think, take this one 41-35. I would not touch the line with a 10-foot pole. That's a nightmare of a line where both these teams could win this one by 14. Both these teams could win this one by 1. It would be a nightmare to try to decide which side of that line you want to go on. I would pick the over. There's no doubt about that. The over, let me check here real quick. The over is set at 64.5. That is a lofty over. These defenses are not good. I'm just being plainly honest. I think we're going to see plenty of points on Sunday, and another Sunday game in these slate of Week 1 games is going to deliver. I do have LSU winning. I do not feel great about it. So it's going to be awesome to watch that one unfold, and we'll obviously break it down on Monday and see how wrong I was or how right I was. Hopefully it's on the right side of things. But at the end of the day, it's going to be incredible to watch those games go down. Those are two of the games that I'm probably circling the most, right up there with Miami versus Florida. But at the end of the day, very, very hard to pick, but I feel pretty good as of right now. I'm going to take A&M, I'm going to take LSU, and then we'll see where the chips fall after this weekend. But let's get into the best of the rest. Right after this break, we'll get into all of the games that I just haven't touched on throughout the week that we got to touch on. There are a couple of incredible games that might be a little bit under the radar that we just got to be able to at least get an idea of what we're going to see and why it's definitely worth your time to watch. So we'll break it down right after this, so stick with us.